I'm living with an elderly lady. Isn't it obvious I should help out? This is just a penalty game, a bit of fun. There's no need to make a big deal out of it, right? So that's your attitude. I see. If you both feel that way, I have my own plans too. My name is Naomi. I'm currently living alone in the city, far from my childhood home. It takes about an hour by car to get there, which makes frequent visits difficult. I manage to go back maybe once a year. Last New Year, for example, I was too busy with work to make the trip. But this year, I was able to make the journey home. I was looking forward to seeing my brother and his wife, who got married 2 years ago, and now live with mother in our family home. I bought the souvenirs they requested and drove back home, excited for what I was sure would be a fun holiday season. But then, what was going on here? When I got home, something felt off. Even from outside, the atmosphere seemed stagnant. It was as dark as a house that had been abandoned for years. When I walked in, the air felt even heavier. I noticed that mother lacked her usual energy. She had always been such a cheerful and lively person. Looking at the three of them, it seemed that mother was doing all the cleaning and cooking. "Mother, are you okay? Can I help?" I asked. "It's all right, Naomi. You've come home after so long. You must be tired from the long drive," she replied, not letting me assist her. Yet she was doing strenuous housework like lifting heavy items. Despite this, my brother and Lily, my sister-in-law, just ignored her. Even when Mom was working right in front of them, they continued playing their games. They even asked her to bring them tea while she was working. It was total madness. "Hey, Mom, are you really okay? Should I talk to my brother for you? Maybe there are things you're having trouble saying." "It's fine, really. You don't have to worry about anything. Just relax. You're home, after all. Your bed is ready in the guest room. You could even take a nap if you want," she insisted. No matter how much I asked, Mom wouldn't tell me anything. I thought there was nothing I could do until mealtime came as a surprise. The living room was filled with Mom's special dishes, including many of my favorites. Each dish had a nostalgic taste, lifting my spirits instantly. "Wow, thank you. I've missed Mom's home cooking so much." "Wait, what?" Mom was nowhere to be found in the living room. Incredibly, she wasn't coming in from the kitchen. "Mom, what's wrong? Aren't you coming in? If there's still something to prepare, I can help you." Puzzled, I went to check in the kitchen, and there was Mom, eating standing up. No chair, just eating alone in the cold kitchen. "Mom, why aren't you joining us? Why are you eating here?" "This is how it always is, so it's fine. But I made plenty, so make sure to eat. I'd like to think my cooking hasn't gone downhill," she said, looking sad. Meanwhile, in the living room, my brother and his wife were eating without a care for Mom, watching TV and chatting away. I couldn't help but feel bewildered. "Hey, what's going on, bro? Sister-in-law, why is Mom eating in the kitchen? Doesn't that strike you as strange?" "Well, Mom has her issues too. You wouldn't understand because you don't live with us," my brother replied nonchalantly. "Exactly," my sister-in-law added. "As you age, your knees start to hurt, and sitting can become painful. You probably wouldn't know unless you live with her. Sometimes it's easier for her to stand. Sitting can make it worse." They responded as if this were the most natural thing in the world. I found their attitude odd, but I couldn't find the words to object. Indeed, it's been 2 years since I last saw Mom. We haven't been in touch often, so there could be circumstances I'm not aware of. So, I backed off at that moment. But as I observed more closely over time, I realized something was off with Mom. To be precise, something was off between my brother, his wife, and Mom. They didn't try to engage Mom in conversation. They acted as if she wasn't there at all. It was as though only I could see her. Then again, my brother and his wife have only been married for 2 years. They've been living with Mom since their newlywed days, so they probably haven't had much alone time. Maybe they're still in that lovey-dovey honeymoon phase and want to stay absorbed in their own little world. That could be one way to look at it. And it's not like I, who isn't usually around, can dictate how often they should be conversing with Mom. With those unsettling thoughts swirling in my mind, I retired to bed that night. However, the real shock came later. In the middle of the night, I woke up needing to use the restroom, only to find Mom asleep in the chilly hallway by the front door. Despite being covered with several blankets, she was shivering noticeably in the cold. "Mom, what are you doing out here? Why are you sleeping in the hallway?" I exclaimed. "It's nothing new. Don't worry about me," she replied softly. "No way. I can't just leave you like this, even though we don't live together normally. I can't ignore it. Despite the late hour, I insisted on taking Mom to the guest room where I was staying. Together, we sought warmth and comfort for the rest of the night. The next morning, I confronted my brother and his wife about what had happened without hesitation. You don't talk to Mom. She does all the housework. She's eating standing up in the kitchen. And why was she sleeping in the hallway? But instead of showing remorse, my brother just grinned. It was my sister-in-law who uttered something shocking. Well, it's because Mom is always causing trouble. It's her punishment, right? That's exactly what I'm saying. Punishment. What do you mean? When you accumulate too many nuisance points, there are consequences. At 5 points, meals are eaten in the kitchen. At 10 points, you handle all the chores yourself. At 20 points, you sleep in the hallway. Right now, our dear mother-in-law has racked up a whopping 200 points, so she only has to endure it a few more days. What does that even mean? Isn't that terrible? And what do you mean by nuisance? I fired my questions hastily. My sister-in-law responded in a casual tone. What counts as a nuisance? Well, like when the food doesn't taste to our liking. For us, working dual-income earners, that's the worst. It's really disappointing to come home after a long day, looking forward to a good meal, only to find it's not tasty. What? Just cook your own food then. Naomi, you don't understand. We're the ones working outside, right? Do you know how much of a hassle it is to cook? That's true, Naomi. My mother-in-law doesn't work, so the least she can do is cook. It's really inconvenient to have an unproductive person at home. Exactly. We're out there working, and she's just at home all day. Quite the life, isn't it? Brother, aren't you being a bit harsh? Mother raised us by herself after Dad passed away. She worked and managed all the housework. She took care of us. Isn't that just a parent's duty? Yeah, that's it. My brother and his wife burst into laughter. Seeing their reaction, I realized there was no use in arguing further. So, I calmly stated, I see how you perceive it. Understood. Then I will fulfill my duty as a daughter. With determination, I started packing Mother's belongings. Her possessions were noticeably fewer than when I last saw them 2 years ago, which saddened me deeply. Despite my emotions, I held back tears, completed the packing, and assisted Mother, who kept apologizing, into my car. My brother and his wife observed with smirks on their faces. Finally, they're taking the burden away from us. Score. This house is ours now, Kevin. Let's enjoy it from now on, my brother remarked gleefully. I ignored their celebration and drove off with Mother, heading home. A few days later, after the New Year's festivities had ended, it was back to work. Then, a frantic call from my brother came through. Hey, nothing's arrived. What's going on? Really? After what you did to Mom, did you expect things to go on as usual, little brother? Do you understand your actions? What are you talking about? I didn't do anything wrong to you. True, you did nothing to me. But what about Mom? Think about it. With that, I hung up on him. It wasn't long before my sister-in-law called. What the? I just read your email. Why are you saying you're cutting ties with us? Explain yourself. Explanation. Cutting ties means ending our business relationship. How many years have you been working that you don't understand that? Are you still functioning in society? Wait, that's not what I meant. Don't insult me. Why does our company have to be cut off? Are you seriously asking that? Considering recent events, are you sure you're fit for this professionally? Do you even remember what happened a few days ago? With that, I ended the call. Truth be told, I work at a major company. My brother freelances for us, handling occasional writing tasks. While it felt strange to cut ties with family, there are plenty of other writers available. As for my sister-in-law, her father's company subcontracts with ours, and my department oversees their contract. Ending our business relationship with them was a straightforward decision. After handling the calls, I took a deep breath to steady myself. Then I sent both of them the same message. You both mistreated Mom. As her daughter, I will fight to protect her. Anyone who harms Mom is my adversary, and I won't hold back. Despite the circumstances of how you met, my sister-in-law visiting our company and my brother seeking more work from me, did you really think it was acceptable to treat Mom so poorly? I hate to say it, but I've been supporting both of you since you met. That ends today. They both seemed to read the message promptly and replied hastily. I haven't forgotten. I treated you better than any brother would treat his sister. I even prepared the guest room nicely for the New Year's celebration. I couldn't leave that to Mom. I also had Mom-in-law make your favorite dishes. Naomi, are you going to forget that kindness? After reading their messages, I replied, you couldn't leave it to Mom. You had to take charge. How dare you disrespect the woman who raised me with such love? Both of you disgust me. Brace yourselves. Ultimately, I stopped assigning work to my brother. There were plenty of others who were more reliable and efficient than him. Without our family ties influencing my decisions, there was no reason to prioritize him. One day, a colleague who was unaware of my relationship with Kevin asked, "Hey Naomi, Kevin Ryder hasn't been active lately, right? Is he not taking on our work anymore?" "Yeah, he told me he's not interested in our projects anymore and asked me to stop sending them his way. So I guess we can just let him be." "Well, that's odd. He doesn't seem to have any notable skills, yet he's straightforward. I wonder how he'll manage without our projects." "I see what you mean. He was a bit of an odd character, wasn't he?" "Exactly. He misses deadlines, acts entitled, and he's overly aggressive in price negotiations. If we don't have to work with him anymore, it's a relief." That's how my brother appears from an outsider's perspective. When I stopped assigning him work, he mentioned that 90% of his income came from our company, so he must be in a tough spot now. With his attitude and skill level, finding new work won't be easy for him. Well, let him struggle. It's of no concern to me. It seems his wife, my sister-in-law, received a serious reprimand from her father after he learned about her treatment of Mom. Her father contacted me in a panic. "I will disown my daughter, so please, I beg of you, let's keep our relationship intact. If there are any other conditions, I will accept them." He's the president of a company we subcontract with. I couldn't ignore his plea after hearing that. So, I laid down a condition. "In that case, I want your daughter and my brother to vacate our house immediately, and she must sincerely apologize to Mother. Additionally, she needs to provide suitable compensation in the divorce settlement." The president promptly conveyed this to my sister-in-law, but she seemed resistant. "Why should I apologize? Living with that old woman is stressful enough. Dad, you need to assert yourself more. You're being pathetic." Given this attitude, I decided not to renew the contract. While I felt sympathy for the president, it felt like karma. Since my brother and his daughter-in-law got married, he had been providing unrealistic estimates. He was tough in negotiations but struggled with deadlines and communication. If he hadn't been family, I would have ended the business relationship much earlier. Moreover, he raised such a daughter-in-law. There was no reason for me to go out of my way to assist him. As a result, my brother and his wife found themselves in a tight spot. According to local acquaintances, they appeared to have moved out of their home at some point. The house originally belonged to our parents, my brother, and me, and it was spacious enough for 4 people or just the 2 of them. Utility bills must have been a burden. According to reports from friends, they were seen in an apartment without basic amenities like a bathroom or toilet. It seemed they were facing significant challenges without steady employment, but that was no longer my concern. Even if they were to suddenly apologize, I had no intention of forgiving them whatsoever. On the other hand, in stark contrast to them, Mom has been steadily regaining her energy. She sleeps in a comfortable bed at my place and enjoys her meals in a cozy environment. She no longer strains herself with household chores and can relax on her days off. After months of this new routine, she's returned to her vibrant self. I was mistaken before. I convinced myself that your brother and his wife were right. I thought I had to comply because I wasn't good enough. Naomi, thank you for rescuing me. No, I should apologize for not realizing it sooner. I'm sorry for letting you suffer, Mom. From now on, please inform me immediately if anything happens. We'll make up for the past by living happily. Lately, Mom has started making friends in the neighborhood. She finds the unfamiliar city exhilarating and loves exploring it. Seeing Mom happy like this brings me immense joy. Moving forward, I'm committed to showing my gratitude to the woman who raised me. That's the firm resolution I've made. Surely Mom and Dad would prefer to live with me rather than you, Emma, my pregnant sister-in-law Karen declared, affectionately cradling her belly. After all, you can even give them grandkids. Since we're moving here, it's only fair that you and your husband find a new place. I responded with a simple, okay, although Karen seemed quite content with my quick acquiescence. Deep down, I felt a sense of relief at the prospect of finally breaking free from our strained relationship. My name is Emma, and I've been married to Scott. Together, we've been grappling with the challenges of infertility. Having spent years working as a child care worker, My love for children ran deep within me. So, when I discovered that conceiving was proving difficult after marrying Scott, it shook me to my core. I even confided in Scott, expressing my fear that he might regret marrying me, considering our struggle. With his gentle demeanor, Scott reassured me, saying, "I didn't marry you for children. I married you because I love you. Whatever challenges we face, we'll face them together." His words resonated with me, and we embarked on the journey of fertility treatments hand in hand. Reflecting on it now, I realize how fortunate I am to have such an exceptional husband by my side. Initially, I attempted to juggle fertility treatments with my job, but the demands of shift work made it increasingly challenging. As the treatments progressed, my emotions became more fragile, often leading to tears at the sight of children, a stark reminder of my own uncertain path to motherhood. Recognizing the strain it placed on both myself and my colleagues, and recalling Scott's suggestion that I could explore being the stay-at-home wife, I made the difficult decision to resign from my job. Now, amidst fertility treatments, I embraced the role of a full-time homemaker. Karen, Scott's younger sister, who was expecting her 5th child, learned of our struggles. Despite the sensitivity of my situation, Karen would visit with her 4 children in tow, oblivious to the emotional toll it sometimes took on me. With a casual tone, she'd remark, "Emma, you're at home now, aren't you? Why not lend me a hand with the kids? You used to work in childcare, didn't you? Take care of them for me, will you?" And with that, she'd leave her children in my care to indulge in her beauty treatments and manicures. Whenever I mentioned that it wasn't appropriate for me to babysit, Karen would dismissively retort, "In a society where people aren't having enough children, isn't someone like me, who's raising kids, more admirable? You who can't even have children should just do as I say." It was frustrating to care for someone else's children without compensation, even if she was my sister-in-law. Despite her abrasive demeanor, I couldn't ignore the longing in her children's eyes for their mother's presence. Each time they asked when she returned, it tugged at my heartstrings. I wondered the same thing myself. Naturally, I shared my concerns with Scott, including how Karen was leaving her children with me while she indulged in her beauty treatments. Scott, seething with anger, confronted Karen over the phone, only to be met with dismissiveness. "Emma should be thrilled to be around kids since she can't have any of her own," Karen retorted. "After all, she used to work with children, so what's the big deal?" Scott, undeterred, approached Karen's husband Rob, hoping for some understanding. However, Rob echoed Karen's sentiments, insisting that our assistance was necessary. "Our kids seem to enjoy Emma's company, and it's a big help to us," Rob stated. "Once Emma gets pregnant, we won't impose on her anymore. But until then, we'd appreciate her support. Karen is exhausted from caring for the children, and as a homemaker, Emma should be able to pitch in." Scott had assured me that if Karen ever showed up uninvited, I had full authority to send her packing. However, her 4 children had a habit of darting straight to the back room without so much as a hello the moment they entered our home. Karen, in her usual fashion, would simply declare, "Well then, you're in charge today," before hastily departing, leaving her kids behind before I could voice any objections. One day, Karen broke her usual routine by unexpectedly stepping inside our house. Typically, she dropped off her children and swiftly left, so I was taken aback when she inquired, "When are you moving to the new house? Have you picked out any designs or anything?" Scott and I were in the process of constructing a new duplex to reside with his parents. With the house nearing completion, we were preparing for the imminent move. Despite being aware of my struggles with infertility, my in-laws had never uttered a single disparaging remark. My mother-in-law, in particular, had been a source of immense support, once reassuring me, "There are countless happy families out there without children." It was a sentiment that had been a lifeline for me. Now, as my in-laws grew older and began to experience various ailments, we realized the importance of living together before they required full-time care. Hence, Scott made the decision to build the duplex. It was a rare occasion when Karen showed genuine interest in the duplex, so I eagerly shared the anticipated images and blueprints with her. Though Karen seldom visited her parents' house, the prospect of the home they would soon occupy seemed to capture her attention. She probed about the number of rooms and the amount of sunlight the house received, to which I assured her there were no concerns. When queried about our moving date, Karen simply responded with a curt, "I see," before abruptly departing, leaving her children behind. A sense of unease lingered within me, but at the time, I brushed it off. Eventually, the decision was made for us to move into the 2-family home. Shortly thereafter, my in-laws settled in, and our life together with Scott's parents commenced seamlessly. Living under one roof proved to be harmonious, and we felt truly fortunate to have such kind-hearted in-laws. Then, unexpectedly, Karen made an unannounced visit one day, accompanied by her 4 children. Without so much as a glance at her kids, she turned to me and uttered, "Hey Emma, we need to talk." As my in-laws, who hadn't seen their grandchildren in quite some time, were being overwhelmed with attention, I found myself abruptly escorted out to the hallway. Amidst my concerns about whether my in-laws, who had been lamenting their recent back problems, could manage the energetic kids, Karen dropped a bombshell. "Hey, why would she and Scott vacate this house?" I was caught off guard by her unexpected words, but Karen forged ahead, seemingly unconcerned with my reaction. "Undoubtedly, Mom and Dad would prefer to reside with me rather than with you, incapable of granting them grandchildren. After all, I'm their true daughter, bound by blood," Karen declared haughtily, her hand caressing her burgeoning belly. It was evident that Karen's scheme involved moving in with my in-laws and relying on them for childcare. "See how thrilled Mom and Dad are to dote on their grandchildren," Karen remarked, gesturing towards my struggling in-laws who were attempting to manage their lively brood of grandkids. Despite my futile attempts to reason with Karen, her determination remained unyielding. Each passing moment only fueled my simmering resentment towards her for ridiculing my infertility and imposing her children on my compassionate in-laws. After much contemplation, a solution dawned on me, and with a resigned nod, I uttered, "Fine, we'll find another place." Karen eagerly set the timeline for our departure and their subsequent occupancy, leaving her children behind once more. Yet amidst the chaos, I found a sense of relief, viewing this as an opportunity to sever ties with Karen. As time elapsed, the day arrived for Karen's family to move into the duplex that Scott had painstakingly built. Wondering if the transition had been smooth, my phone suddenly rang. It was Karen. As I picked up the phone, Karen's voice pierced through with an edge of fury. "What on earth is going on? Why hasn't your stuff been cleared out yet? There's no space for our belongings. And where are Mom and Dad supposed to go?" Scott, his parents, and I had vacated the 2-family residence, but some furniture remained behind. Karen's agitation was palpable, prompting my reply. "The decision was sudden, so we've only partially moved out for now. Your parents are staying with us." "Unbelievable." Karen's retort came swift and sharp. "I find it outrageous that you and your husband have taken it upon yourselves to move into the house Scott built without consulting us. It's equally outrageous to offload the kids onto us and gallivant around town, despite our repeated warnings about the challenges of caring for them." "That's beside the point for now. Can I just dispose of any remaining furniture that I don't care for?" Karen inquired impatiently. "If you're truly intending to move in, feel free to do so. But are you absolutely certain about this?" I questioned, a hint of skepticism lacing my words. "What do you mean?" Karen snapped irritably. It was then that I dropped the bombshell. "Can you and your husband manage the mortgage for that house? It's a substantial investment, given it's a 2-family home." By that juncture, I had already spun a web of lies. Even my apparent agreement to their moving in was fabricated. There was no way I could entertain Karen's notion of seizing control over the duplex that my husband Scott had painstakingly constructed. It's only natural that the furniture remains, considering Scott, his parents, and I are currently enjoying a vacation at Yellowstone National Park. In reality, the house had been entirely paid for with the combined savings of Scott, myself, and his parents. There was no mortgage to speak of, but the fabrication served its purpose in rattling Karen. Scott and his parents were in on the plan. When Karen demanded to speak with Scott, he adopted a mischievous grin and echoed my deception, claiming there was still a mortgage. Upon hearing this over the phone, Karen reportedly broke down in tears, unable to fathom the financial strain. She ultimately chose to retreat to her previous residence with her husband, Rob, and their children, after Scott assured her she could still withdraw and that we were also returning home. Upon our return home, narrowly averting Karen's attempted takeover, she wasted no time in launching into a tirade. "You never disclosed there was still a mortgage. Why keep us in the dark?" Karen's voice reverberated with anger as she directed her accusations at us. With a nonchalant shrug, I retorted, "Because you never inquired," causing Karen's face to flush an even deeper shade of red. The children were thrilled at the thought of this becoming our home. "You've shattered their dreams as well. Maybe your inability to conceive is punishment for your negligence." You owe it to them to properly care for the kids. Even if it's just playing with them, it's better than doing nothing. Karen's words stung with venom. Listening to Karen's venomous tirade, my typically reserved mother-in-law rose from her seat and delivered a resounding slap across Karen's cheek. Taken aback by my typically serene mother-in-law's unexpected outburst, she turned her attention to Karen with a cutting edge in her tone. You can't even handle the simple task of playing with the kids? Were you planning to move into this duplex just to unload your childcare responsibilities onto us? I was willing to lend a hand if you were struggling to raise your children alone, but who would want to assist a daughter who shirks her parenting duties and acts entitled? Leave this house immediately and never return. A note of desperation crept into Karen's voice as she protested. Aren't you on my side, Mom? I'm your real daughter, aren't I? In response to Karen's tearful plea, my usually reserved father-in-law found his tone heavy with disappointment. It's precisely because you're a real daughter that your behavior is so disgraceful. I feel remorseful for raising such a self-centered daughter. Scott has informed me of your cruel remarks towards Emma regarding her struggles with infertility. That's an unforgivable act. Karen's glare intensified towards me, but I couldn't help but feel a twinge of pity for her, knowing she would be facing her struggles alone from now on. With a solemn expression, I opened the front door for her. As both your mother and father have stated, it's time for you to leave. I won't be assisting with childcare any longer, so please take responsibility for your own. You're all heartless monsters, Karen lashed out before departing the house in tears. From that moment on, she never crossed the threshold of our home again. When Karen arrived at our house, Scott was away at work. Later, he received a call from her, but her words were barely intelligible through her uncontrollable sobs. It became apparent that her family was facing dire financial troubles. Karen had been indulging in beauty treatments and manicures, while Rod had been squandering money on lottery tickets. With their savings dwindling, Karen saw moving into the duplex Scott had built as a solution to avoid paying rent and utilities. When she turned to Scott, who earned significantly more than the average income, for financial assistance, he couldn't overlook her past mockery of my infertility. Scott advised Karen to cut back on beauty treatments and lottery tickets as a solution, but she tearfully refused. He couldn't bring himself to financially assist such an arrogant individual, even if she was his blood relative. As their financial situation worsened, Rob had to resort to taking a second job to cover their expenses after exhausting their funds on lottery tickets. Similarly, Karen had to forgo her regular beauty treatments due to a lack of funds. Once polished and composed, Karen was now almost unrecognizable after months of financial strain. It was only when Scott pointed her out that I realized it was indeed Karen. Yet, despite Karen's challenges, her children remained vibrant and content in her care, which was a relief. And then, a miraculous twist occurred. I discovered that I was pregnant with twins. However, even amidst the joyous news, tears welled in my eyes when the doctor confirmed it. Scott, by my side, also shed tears of happiness as we shared in the overwhelming emotion. My in-laws were equally ecstatic, finally seeing the realization of our long-held dream for a child. Though I hadn't voiced it to Scott, I couldn't help but wonder if the release from the stress caused by Karen had played a part in my pregnancy. Reflecting on the unwavering support of Scott and my in-laws, who chose to stand by me rather than Karen, fills me with immense gratitude. It's because of their unwavering support that I've been blessed with two precious lives. Now, all I can do is hope fervently that the babies growing within me will be born healthy. Ever since my husband's company found its footing, he morphed into a stranger. His affair with another woman became brazen, as if he didn't care about hiding it anymore. When I confronted him, he dismissed my concerns with a mocking laugh. You're worthless, living off my earnings. Be thankful I even bother with you, he spat, his contempt oozing with every word. Get a job if you're so unhappy. Defiant, I accepted his challenge. Landing a position at his family's company, I plotted my retaliation against Michael. I'm Karen, once content as a 34-year-old homemaker, while Michael, my 36-year-old husband, managed a printing business. Our romance sparked in the corridors of our workplace. He was in sales and I in illustrations. Our love story culminated in marriage when I was 26. Once we settled into our routine, he made the bold move of resigning from his job, proposing the idea of launching a new venture together. Uncertain, I sought counsel from our trusted business partner, Bob, with whom we shared past collaborations. Bob, A seasoned CEO known for his diverse business ventures and adeptness in advertising readily lent his support. Bob backed our endeavor and even contributed funds. I recounted. Karen's illustrations have always impressed me, Bob remarked, his praise leaving me humbled. With gratitude, we vow to steer our company to triumph. Just the two of us, I affirmed to Bob as we embarked on our entrepreneurial journey. Initially, we grappled with the constraints of a cramped apartment. However, with the ascent of our company, we upgraded to a sleek high-rise condominium. It was then that my husband broached the idea of me focusing solely on homemaking. I'll hire someone else for the illustrations. Eventually, I need your full support, he asserted, his words leaving me torn. Reluctantly, I confided in Bob, our steadfast investor. I regret to inform you, but I must step away from illustration work, I disclosed to Bob. His empathy was palpable. It pains me to think I won't have the pleasure of witnessing Karen's illustrations anymore. Yet if you ever decide to return to it, just say the word. I'll stand by you, Bob reassured me. Thank you, truly, I expressed my gratitude. And thus, I embraced the role of homemaker to bolster my husband's aspirations. However, my passion for drawing persisted, finding solace in sharing my illustrations on Instagram. The unexpected warmth of response has become my clandestine delight. As my husband's business flourished, our lifestyle mirrored its success. His investments yielded opulent returns, evident in the acquisition of a new car and bespoke suits from prestigious labels. While I deemed these indulgences excessive, I recognized their significance in his role as the company's figurehead. Despite his demanding schedule, he remained steadfast in our tradition of sharing dinner at home. It was a solemn pact, a sanctuary carved out for just the two of us amidst the chaos. Over these meals, he divulged the company's forthcoming ventures, a privilege that filled me with contentment. Supporting his ambitions became my source of joy. I once believed our harmonious routine would endure indefinitely. Despite the company's continued prosperity, subtle shifts began to emerge in my husband's demeanor. Gone were the animated discussions about business during our dinners. "How's everything at the company?" I inquired, met with lukewarm responses. "Everything's fine," he'd mutter, his enthusiasm conspicuously absent. Persistently, I probed for more details, only to be met with terse rebuttals. "Don't pry, you wouldn't understand. You're always here. I shouldn't have to explain every little detail." His words pierced through me, a stark departure from the understanding and camaraderie we once shared. I attempted to rationalize his behavior as fatigue or stress, but that night, as he silently retreated to our room after dinner, I couldn't shake the feeling of unease settling in. This pattern persisted, with my husband increasingly opting for dinners away from home. Feeble justifications of social obligations or client meetings replaced our once sacred mealtime together. Despite my waiting patiently, delaying my own dinner, his absence grew routine, his excuses dwindling to nothingness. Confrontation only invited his wrath, a stark departure from the partner I once knew. I felt reduced to a mere servant in my own home, the weight of his indifference crushing me to tears. We once weathered the storms of entrepreneurship together, hand in hand. Now, I found myself relegated beneath even his employees, my sacrifices met with scorn rather than appreciation. My domestic duties weren't born out of a passion for homemaking. They were a testament to my unwavering commitment to his aspirations. Yet any semblance of gratitude had long since vanished from his eyes. In his absence, I find solace in my illustrations, a sanctuary where stress dissipates and creativity flourishes. With each stroke, my online following burgeons, their supportive comments a balm to my weary soul. Among them, a familiar name emerges, Bob's. Bob extends an offer to collaborate again. A glimmer of hope, I muse, buoyed by the prospect. Without this beacon, I might have succumbed to despair. As our shared dinners faded into memory, a palpable chasm widened between my husband and me. Suspicion crept in, fueled by the faint scent of perfume lingering on his abandoned suit jacket, a fragrance foreign to him. When confronted, he flippantly dismissed it as a triviality, a smirk playing on his lips. His nonchalance stoked the embers of my long-suppressed sorrow, igniting them into a fiery rage. Enough with the charade, I resolved. Left alone in the confines of our home, relegated to mundane chores, the gnawing fear of societal abandonment gnawed at my sanity with each passing day. My friends could only offer envy, while my parents dismissed my concerns as trivial luxuries. Left to grapple with my turmoil alone, I bore the weight of my suspicions in solitude. Then, one fateful evening, my husband returned home inebriated. Amidst my desperate efforts to tend to him, a damning discovery awaited, a crimson imprint adorning his shirt collar. Its presence could not be dismissed as innocent, a glaring testament to another woman's trespass. In that moment, I unearthed undeniable evidence of my husband's betrayal. With resolve coursing through my veins, I confronted him the following day, brandishing the damning garment. "Where were you last night, and what is this?" I demanded, pointing to the incriminating mark. Though caught off guard by the lipstick stain, my husband remained eerily composed in the face of my accusation. "I was out with friends at a bar. Must have happened then, right? You'd need to take off your jacket for that. Didn't you notice?" he retorted, his words laced with defiance. Unconvinced by his feeble alibi, I responded, "I don't recall." With a sudden motion, my husband rose from his seat, his hand connecting with my cheek in a searing slap. Stunned, I stumbled backward, reeling from the unexpected blow, the sting of pain radiating across my skin. "When will you understand? Who do you think is providing for us?" he spat before retreating to the sanctuary. I watched his departure, tears tracing silent paths down my cheeks. In that moment, the truth struck with brutal clarity. My husband's love had waned, leaving behind a cavernous void. I was left shattered by the cold reality of our fractured relationship. From that day forth, my husband's temper became increasingly volatile. His displeasure manifested in violent outbursts, whether it be at a meal I had prepared or any perceived infraction. The once tender moments of our marriage were now eclipsed by a shadow of fear and uncertainty. "This tastes atrocious. Do you even pay attention to what I eat? If you want to keep being my wife, you better sharpen your culinary skills," my husband berated before storming out of the room. "I'll dine out. Eating this would sabotage my productivity," he declared. I trailed after him, desperation evident in my voice. "Please wait. I want to prepare meals you enjoy. But you're never home or communicate with me. How can I cater to your tastes like that?" My husband clicked his tongue in irritation at my plea. "Should we just divorce then? I'm fine with it. I can manage without you, but can you survive without me?" he sneered, his gaze piercing through me. "You're nothing but a leech, living off my earnings," he spat, his words a venomous assault. In that moment, a realization dawned upon me. This man was beyond redemption. The compassionate husband I once knew was a relic of the past. "Then I'll find a job," I declared. "What? What's gotten into you?" My husband's voice echoed with incredulity. "I'll strive for financial independence too," I affirmed. My husband erupted into laughter, doubling over. "Who would you consider hiring someone as powerless as you?" he taunted. Suppressing my rising fury, I maintained composure. Reacting with anger would only escalate the abuse. If I couldn't win through strength, I needed to strategize differently. "Fine, do as you wish, but don't neglect your household duties. With your meager earnings, I won't tolerate a neglected home," my husband dismissed, exiting our dwelling. Swiftly taking action, I enlisted the services of a detective to uncover evidence of my husband's infidelity. The findings were damning, a trove of incriminating photographs capturing my husband's dalliances with extravagantly dressed women, reveling in drinks and discreet hotel entrances. It was a mosaic of betrayal, with not just one, but several women ensnared in his web of deceit. Yet as I surveyed the evidence and listened to the detective's report, a peculiar calm washed over me. There was no rage, no sorrow, only a pragmatic acknowledgement of the situation. The ostentatious behavior that had once irked me now served as a conduit for undeniable proof. 1 week later, adorned in my finest attire, I ascended to a restaurant atop a luxurious hotel. Despite my efforts, I felt out of place amidst the opulent clientele. With a hesitant step, I approached the reserved table, where Bob awaited. "My apologies for the delay," I offered, but Bob's warm smile assuaged my apprehension as he motioned for me to take a seat. "Karen, no need for apologies. I've been eagerly anticipating our meeting. Your presence is worth the wait," Bob reassured, casting aside any notion of inconvenience. Bob had played a pivotal role in our journey to independence, generously backing us financially when my husband and I decided to venture out on our own. Now, he held a prominent position as the president of my husband's parent company. "I'm immensely grateful for your unwavering support during our leap to independence. Your confidence in us meant the world." I expressed my gratitude. Bob chuckled warmly. It was a no-brainer for me. "After all, our history together made it an easy decision," he replied. It's evident the company is thriving under your guidance, I observed. A hint of seriousness crossed Bob's features at my remark. Yes, it's progressing well, but today our focus is on your acceptance of my invitation, correct? He redirected, his smile returning to reassure me. Yes, indeed, I affirmed, straightening in my seat and extending a warm greeting. Reflecting on our past interactions, I recalled Bob's genuine admiration for my illustrations. He had been instrumental in providing funding for our venture into independence, recognizing the value I brought to the table. Moreover, he had been the lone voice cautioning against the path of becoming a homemaker. Though we had lost touch, Bob's reemergence in my life through social media rekindled our connection, leading to regular exchanges via email and text messages. You always had a keen understanding of my illustrations, didn't you? I remarked. I have been a fan of your work for quite some time. I'm thrilled you never gave up on illustrating. Your decision to reach out to me caught me off guard, though, Bob confessed. Bob had extended offers for me to join his team as an illustrator on multiple occasions, but my domestic responsibilities had always stood in the way. However, after much contemplation, I had recently made the decision to accept his proposal. In a recent conversation with my husband, Bob had seemed hesitant yet determined. And now, as he locked eyes with me, a sense of anticipation hung in the air. Bob's words hit me like a bolt from the blue. Michael's company has garnered quite a negative reputation, he divulged. What? That's surprising. Michael always spoke so highly of his job. I never imagined this, I mused, taken aback by the revelation. I've been closely involved for a while now, but as the company expanded, the quality of their work took a nosedive. Missed deadlines, errors, and he seems oblivious to it all. Bob lamented. Is this reputation widespread? I inquired, a knot forming in my stomach. The company's rapid growth initially attracted positive attention. However, it's now under scrutiny for all the wrong reasons. There are even whispers of unsavory affiliations, Bob disclosed, his tone tinged with concern. I had no idea. I've been so out of touch with Michael's professional life, I realized, a pang of unease settling in. To lighten the mood, Bob chimed in cheerfully, You'll be creating illustrations for us from now on. No need to outsource anymore. It's a significant asset for our company. I appreciate your understanding and flexibility regarding my family commitments. I express my gratitude. No worries at all. We believe in maintaining a healthy work-life balance for our employees, Bob reassured with a smile. And so, I embarked on my journey working for Bob. With my sole focus on illustration tasks, there was no need for me to commute to the office. Bob graciously granted me the opportunity to work remotely, allowing me to seamlessly juggle my household responsibilities. The sheer joy of creating art, once confined to a hobby, now bloomed into a fulfilling profession. However, amidst the satisfaction of my work, I couldn't shake the longing to have more control over my time, to pursue my passion without constraints imposed by domestic duties and supporting my husband. With my newfound income, I believed I could sustain myself independently. However, as I diligently worked, one day, the abrupt sound of the door slamming jolted me from my concentration. Rushing to the hallway, I was met with my husband's furious gaze. You traitor, he seethed. Confusion clouded my mind as I struggled to comprehend his sudden outburst. To think my own wife would snatch away my job, he spat. In that moment, realization dawned upon me. My husband's ire stemmed from my collaboration with Bob, which had opened doors to additional contracts with companies affiliated with his own. This was my retaliation, my way of reclaiming power from the one who had belittled me. The irony must have been galling for him, to have his livelihood threatened by the very person he had scorned. You have no authority to dictate my actions. I'm simply carrying out my duties with your explicit consent, I asserted, holding my ground as my husband's anger simmered. If you feel compelled, go ahead and strike me. I won't hesitate to involve the authorities, I declared, unyielding in the face of his aggression. My company's downfall is on your hands. What exactly are you trying to achieve? He accused, his frustration palpable. This has nothing to do with me, I rebutted, resolute in my stance. Retrieving the divorce papers from the adjoining room, I handed them to my husband with a steady hand. We're no longer bound by matrimony. Let's not prolong this any further, I stated firmly, severing the ties that bound us together. You're divorcing me over my company's struggles. You're just after my money, aren't you? I retorted, stung by his accusation. I could have ended this marriage whenever I please. but I chose to wait. Now that I'm successful and earning, suddenly it's convenient for you to walk away. Wait a moment. Let's discuss the future of the company first before we rush into divorce. We founded it together, remember? You're the one who ousted me from that company, my husband interjected, a hint of desperation creeping into his voice. I severed all ties with that company, and I intend to seek proper compensation, I asserted firmly, unyielding in my resolve. Michael's frustration was evident, his agitation palpable as he gnawed on his lip in vexation. How shameless can you be? You have no right to talk about compensation when you're the one initiating the divorce. Do you even realize how many times you've hurt me and your affairs? I had undeniable proof, I retorted, brandishing the incriminating photographs. As he beheld the evidence of his infidelity, my husband's facade crumbled, and he sank to his knees, pleading with desperation. Please, I beg of you. The company's on the brink of collapse. I can't handle the added burden of compensation or a divorce. I need your support now more than ever. Everyone has abandoned me the moment they caught wind of our troubles. You're the only one left, he implored, his voice quivering with raw vulnerability. I dismissed his desperate plea as utterly futile. Gathering only my essentials and work materials, I departed from the house without a backward glance. My return home only occurred once the divorce proceedings were concluded, solely to retrieve my belongings. By then, my husband's company was hemorrhaging mistakes, and he found himself deserted by all. Reduced to pleading for funds to compensate me, he spent his days in a pitiful state. In stark contrast, I embraced solitude, forging a livelihood through my beloved craft of illustration. With each stroke of the pen, I accumulated wealth, all while upholding my integrity, a stark contrast to my ex-husband's downfall. Help me find our daughter on this family hiking trip. Our 6-year-old daughter, Agnes, has gone missing, despite calling out her name repeatedly. There's no sign of her anywhere. It's your fault for taking your eyes off her. You go find her yourself. My husband, Zeke, coldly shoots back amidst the chaos and drives off alone. Wait, don't leave, I shout, chasing after the car, but my voice doesn't reach him. Left alone in the woods, I'm filled with dread about what will happen if I can't find Agnes. My name is Marley, and I'm 35. Agnes, who just turned 6, is a very kind and adorable daughter. Zeke, who usually dislikes family outings, had suddenly suggested going hiking the day before. Zeke, the same age as me, is domineering and doesn't listen to others, a trait that's always bothered me. I wasn't thrilled about the hike since my asthma had been acting up for the last 3 days. Clean air will cure your annoying asthma, Zeke decided without hearing our opinions. When did he start speaking to me so harshly? He was a kind person when we first got married. Is this how a couple end up after 8 years of marriage? On the day of the hike, we drove for about 2 hours to get to the mountain. Upon arrival, Agnes jumps for joy. Wow, look Mom, I found these for you. She hands me acorns and pine cones she's collected. See, told you it would be good. Let's enjoy nature to the fullest. Yes, I'm glad Agnes is enjoying it. Although Zeke usually sleeps all day during his days off, today he's oddly excited, which feels a bit off. But I was happy that we could finally spend a normal family day. Let's go further in, the view is supposed to be amazing. After about 30 minutes of walking, I'm exhausted. Please, can we slow down a bit? If you don't keep up, we're leaving you behind. Come on, Mom, hurry up, they say as they get further and further away. I'm running low on stamina, and my throat starts making alarming noises as a cough sets in. Asthma here would be disastrous. Agnes is with Zeke, so she'll be fine. I should go at my own pace. Another 30 minutes later. I spot Zeke, but there's no sign of Agnes. Where's Agnes? She was with you, right? I ask urgently. Yeah, she was, but she wanted to explore further and ran off? Zeke replies casually. You let her go alone? I exclaim, my worry rising. She's too energetic for me to keep up with. If you're worried, go find her, Zeke retorts, pointing in the direction she went. The path he indicates is full of dense trees, and the trail isn't clear. I must find her quickly. This is dangerous. Agnes, where are you? Answer me, I desperately call out, but there's no response. About 20 minutes later, I return to where Zeke was, only to find him chatting with a young woman in her 20s. Where's Agnes? I ask anxiously. This lady just told me she saw a young girl walking towards the parking lot. I guess I'll go too, Zeke says, nonchalantly. No, you should keep looking in the woods, I urge him. Ignoring my plea, Zeke heads down the mountain with the woman, making their way to the parking lot. I search again in the direction Agnes went. It's eerily quiet, and I don't sense anyone around. Come to think of it, I've hardly seen anyone since we got here, except for that woman. What if I can't find her? Agnes, please answer me, I call out repeatedly, but my voice seems to get swallowed by the woods. Zeke isn't answering his phone, and I notice my cell has no service. Not knowing what else to do, I head back to the parking lot and find Zeke chatting with the woman. They're both smiling, so I assume Agnes must have been found. Where's Agnes? I inquire eagerly. Nope, she wasn't here, Zeke responds casually. What? Why are you so relaxed then? I can't help but express my frustration. Despite Agnes still being missing, Zeke was happily chatting with the young woman. I don't get why you're mad. Aren't you worried about Agnes? Let's look again together, I plead with Zeke. Enough. This is your fault for losing her. Go find her yourself. I'm going home, Zeke retorts, hopping into his car and driving off before I can protest. Wait, you can't be serious. I shout, but it's too late. He's already out of sight, and even when I call Zeke, he doesn't answer. He actually left us here. Before I know it, the young woman is also gone, and not a single car is left. What should I do now? The sun is setting, and it'll be dark soon. Thinking of how scared Agnes might be, I go back into the woods. But even after searching for over an hour, I hear nothing. The wheezing coming from the back of my throat is also getting stronger. I'm finding it hard to breathe. It's pointless looking alone. Finally, it hits me that I should call the police, but I can't get a signal. After a desperate search for a signal, I finally reach the police, only to learn that Agnes was safely found by a passerby. I hail a taxi to go get her. As soon as Agnes sees me, she runs to me, crying, "Mom, thank God you're okay. Are you hurt?" "No, Mom. I was scared," Agnes says, comforting me. "I'm so sorry, Agnes," I reply, feeling a wave of relief wash over me. But maybe it's the relief or maybe the stress, but I can't stop coughing. Agnes gently rubs my back. "Mom, are you okay? Don't worry, we'll go to the hospital right away." I thank the police officer and we head to a nearby hospital for my asthma treatment. Luckily, it's not severe and I start feeling better after using the inhaler. But then, Agnes drops a bombshell. "Mom, one of Dad's friends told me about a place full of beautiful flowers." I was with her, and the next thing I knew, I was alone. "Wait, you didn't go exploring in the woods?" I asked, alarmed. "No, I wouldn't do that. Do you remember what this woman with Dad looked like?" Agnes pulled out her toy camera and showed me a picture she'd taken. It was of a young woman Zeke had been with earlier, and they were snuggled up, clearly more than just friends. Could he be cheating? The shock made me feel dizzy and I crouched down right there. "Mom, are you okay?" Agnes asked, still worried. "I'm fine," I said, still coughing. Seeing Agnes's worried face, I realized I couldn't give in now. He won't get away with this. I'm going to dig deep to keep Zeke from knowing my whereabouts, I resolved. I turned off my phone's location and decided to stay at my brother's nearby apartment. From that day on, my brother, Tin, who had recently moved in, would be my refuge. Zeke didn't know that our house was visible from there. However, Zeke's car wasn't home, and the house was dark and quiet. Where could he be? I took out my phone and called Zeke. "What do you want?" he snapped. "How could you leave us behind?" "Because you're annoying." "So, did you find Agnes?" he asked curtly. "Yes, she's safe, and my asthma's gotten bad, so I'm going to be hospitalized for about a week. Agnes will stay at my parents' house." "Really? You sound almost happy about it. I'm glad Agnes is safe." "Take care," he said, his tone insincere. My mistrust for Zeke, who was not only unapologetic but also blatantly lying, only deepened. He didn't even ask which hospital I was in. He's probably with her right now, planning something awful. I was burning with rage, but I had to wait until I saw the truth for myself. Finally, Zeke came home late at night and left for work at his usual time the next morning. In the meantime, I purchased a small security camera and installed it indoors. I could view its footage, including audio, directly on my phone. Now, I had Zeke under surveillance. That night, the woman I saw in the mountains walked into our house, and they started having dinner while drinking wine in the living room. Seeing them get touchy-feely made me nauseous. It was a good idea to take advantage of my wife's sickness and take her to the mountain. This 1 week she's in the hospital will be heaven. You were so clever, boss, the woman praised. Right now, we can relax without anyone disturbing us. It's not comfortable being together at work, but you always say the thrill makes it better, Zeke replied. True to his words, it seems his affair partner is a subordinate at his workplace. They even seem to be doing something suspicious at work. I can't believe this. Absolutely unforgivable. They were laughing happily, hugging each other. Now is my chance to catch them in the act. I left my brother's house quietly and approached mine. Confirming they were in the middle of it all, I started recording on my phone. Then I opened the door with a loud noise. Well, aren't we lively? I said coldly. Why are you here? You're supposed to be in the hospital, Zeke stuttered, caught off guard. Ow, 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 the woman cried out. They couldn't even separate. Helpless, pathetic. Please call an ambulance, I urged. Sirens wailed and a crowd gathered outside our home because Zeke and the woman were screaming so loudly. Covered only with bedsheets, they were loaded into the ambulance as his wife. I followed them to the hospital, and not long after arriving and receiving medical attention, Zeke and his mistress were released. The doctor said they were free to go, so the two of them were shivering on a hospital bench, wrapped only in sheets as they had no clothes. This was just pathetic. When did you get out of the hospital? I was never admitted in the first place, Zeke admitted. I've been keeping tabs on you, you know. What? How? He asked, bewildered. From my brother's new apartment. It has a clear view of our house, I explained, feeling a mix of exhaustion and frustration. I sighed and handed them hospital pajamas I borrowed from the nurse's station. I couldn't bear to watch their disgrace any longer. They hurriedly put on the pajamas. So, how long has this been going on? I demanded. You got it all wrong. She just came to drop off some work documents, Zeke insisted. Oh, really? I retorted, showing Zeke the picture Agnes took. This is you. You left Agnes alone in the mountains just to get cozy with her, didn't you? That's not true. She was gone when I realized it. Zeke tried to play dumb, but I wasn't buying it. I replayed the conversation I heard between them in the living room. Both Zeke and the woman were clearly shaken. Still going to deny it? I asked, my anger simmering. Well, about that. I can't believe you waited for me to be away to meet up with her. What's wrong with you? I snapped, feeling a mix of betrayal and hurt. Look who's talking. You're the one spying on me, Zeke countered, trying to deflect blame. Can you say that after leaving our sick child and me alone in the mountains? I retorted, feeling my patience wearing thin. Seeing Zeke's lack of remorse, I could feel my feelings for him dwindling away. I'll never forgive you for putting Agnes in danger. Let's get a divorce. Divorce? Why? Zeke asked, taken aback. How can you even ask that? If you're so well matched with her, then just go be with her, I retorted, glaring at the woman sitting next to me. She glared back, attempting to intertwine her arm with Zeke's. However, Zeke shook off her arm and grabbed my hand. I was just messing around with her. I never intended to ruin our family, and to be honest, it was painful and awful. So I'm breaking up with her, Zeke explained. The woman's face contorted like a demon's. She slapped Zeke across the face. Are you kidding me? What are you saying? Enough. I'm tired of women who are only younger. That's cruel. You said you'd marry me after you divorce, the woman accused, her voice rising in anger. Watching their quarrel unfold, I was beyond disgusted. Both a woman who knew he was married and Zeke, who would surely repeat this behavior, were to blame. Cut it out. This is a hospital. Keep it down, I scolded. Finally, both quieted down at my scolding. It seemed like they both needed a heavy dose of self-reflection. You better prepare yourself. I'm reporting you to the police for abandoning me and our young daughter in the mountains. When I was sick, what is that, a crime? Zeke exclaimed defensively. Of course it is, yikes. Please give me a break. Just forget the police, I interjected, feeling exasperated. Both suddenly backtracked, looking up at me apologetically. Although they were saying sorry, their hearts weren't in it. I bet that's not all I want. The house sold for the division of property and $30,000 for infidelity compensation. Don't forget the child support for Agnes, I demanded. Please forgive me, I'm sorry, Zeke pleaded, while the woman who laid hands on him owed me $30,000 and damages as well. We can't afford that. Not my problem. You'll have to take out loans, I retorted, feeling a mix of anger and resolve. Oh God, if you've learned anything, stay away from men with families. Got it? Please rethink this. Zeke suddenly bowed down to the floor in apology, and the woman hastily followed suit. What is there to rethink now? I looked down on both of them with disdain. No way. I'll inform your company about this as well. Goodbye. This is the worst. I left Zeke and his affair partner yelling and immediately went to the police to file a report. Soon after, they were both arrested for abandonment charges related to me and my daughter Agnes. According to my lawyer, it's going to be a pretty serious offense for them. Zeke and his mistress lost their jobs as a result. I finalized the divorce and made them pay the affair settlement and child support in one lump sum. With the money from selling our house, I was even able to get a settlement from the mistress paid from her severance package. As I was considering moving out of the apartment, Tan, who had been so helpful, said, I worry about you and Agnes living on your own. Why don't you stay here with me? Taking him up on his kind offer, now happily spending each day with my loving daughter and beloved brother. Perhaps because my stress has gone down, my asthma attacks have also stopped, and I'm feeling great now.